Good morning, dear student. In continuation with part 1, we are here with the part 2 of ABG analysis, where we will be further discuss about whether the ABG's as abnormalities is a case of full compensation or partial compensation or uncompensation. Now, before proceeding to today's sessions, we will briefly discuss about the basic components, their values and acid base balance, etc. So, as I told earlier in session 1, the three basic components, that is your pH, PCO2 and bicarbonate, on which your full ABG abnormalities is depend. So, normal value of pH is 7.35 to 7.45. Normal value of PCO2 is 35 to 45. Normal value of bicarbonate ranges from 22 to 28. Those are not values, are ranges actually. Now coming to the pH value. This is the pH, ranges from 7.35 to 7.45, and this 7.40 is absolute normal value, and 7.35 to 7.45 is normal range. Now whatever values is beyond 7.40, greater than this 7.40, will be basic in nature, means alkaline in nature, and whatever values is 7.40 will be acidic in nature, leading towards acidosis. Now this value can be, let's think, if it is below 7.40, it can be 7.39, it can be 7.36, it can be 7.2, 7.1, all will be less than 7.40, will be leading towards acidosis. Okay, so it will be acidic in nature. Example of acidosis. And whatever values is beyond 7.40, greater than 7.40, it can be 7.42, it can be 7.44, it can be 7.45, 7.6. Whatever values beyond 7.40 will be coming under basic in nature. It will lead to alkalosis. So more than 7.40 means basic, leading towards alkalosis. Now coming to the PCO2 value. As I told earlier, PCO2 is an acidic oxide. That means it is acidic in nature, and the normal ranges is from 35 to 45. So if in our body PCO2 value is decreasing, means it is less than 35, that means it is acidic component is getting decreases. If acidic component is getting decreases, alternatively we can say it is leading towards basic in nature. Okay, acidic component decreases means alternatively we can say it is getting towards basic in nature. If PCO2 value is increasing means the value is getting beyond 45, that means your acidic component is getting increases, so it is leading towards acidosis. Again, if your PCO2 value is decreasing means acidic component is getting decreases and it is getting alkaline in nature, as because basic in nature is getting increases. Acidic nature decrease means basic nature is increasing. Basic nature is decreasing means acidic nature is increasing. As simple as that. So if your PCO2 value is less than 35 means acidic component is getting decreased, means it is leading towards alkalosis. If the PCO2 value is more than 45 means acidic component is increasing and leading towards acidosis. The third component is bicarbonate value. Bicarbonate is a basic component. So, and the normal ranges is from 22 to 28. If bicarbonate value is decreasing means less than 22. Less than 22 means basic component is decreasing. If basic component is decreasing, what I said, alternatively we can say it is leading towards acidosis. basic component decreasing means acidic component is increasing. That means acidosis nature increase हो रहा है. If bicarbonate value is increasing means if it is more than 28, that means basic component is increasing. So it is leading towards alkalosis. As simple as that. If basic component is decreasing means acidosis nature मिल रहा है. If basic component is increasing means basic component is increasing and alkalosis nature मिल रहा है. Okay. So our body is in a equilibrium state between acid and base. If acid is increasing, base will also increase to compensate the alternation. If acid is decreasing, base will also decrease to compensate the equilibrium, because acid and base both tried their best to maintain a static state, static or equilibrium state. So now our today's topic of discussions will be those ABG abnormalities which we have discussed earlier, like metabolic acidosis, metabolic alkalosis, respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis. Those are further classified into full compensation, partial compensation and your uncompensation. Now you will feel some difficulty again and again, so don't think about that, because there are some basic difference from where you will get to understand whether it is a case of full compensation, whether it is a partial compensation or whether it is an uncompensation. So keep watching this video where I will be discussing first about the full compensation. So if in exam questions will come from this ABG abnormalities, by looking onto the three basic components PaH, PCO2 and bicarbonate, how you will understand whether it is a case of full compensation or partial compensation or uncompensation. So we will discuss it here. So now abhi full compensation further classified into full compensated respiratory acidosis, full compensated respiratory alkalosis, full compensated metabolic acidosis, full compensated metabolic alkalosis. So if in question minimum they will give you these three values, pH, PCO2 and bicarbonate. So whatever values they have given in PCO2, whether it is increase or decrease, bicarbonate value whether it is increase or decrease, if they were not in normal range, no matter, you directly look into the pH value whether it is in normal range. If you see the pH value is in normal range, blindly you can answer that it is a case of full compensation, full compensated ABG abnormalities. It can be full compensated respiratory acidosis, it can be full compensated respiratory alkalosis, it can be full compensated metabolic acidosis, or it can be full compensated metabolic alkalosis. We will discuss it one by one. So whatever value they have given, first you need to look into this pH value. Now let's think I'm giving one example of, you don't know anything about what kind of example it is. In question paper they have given you three data about this pH, PCO2 and bicarbonate. So pH value they have given 7.39, PCO2 value they have given 750 and bicarbonate value they have given 30. Now how will you answer which kind of ABG abnormalities is this? So what I said, you don't think about further whether it is metabolic or respiratory. First you need to look into this pH value. pH value whether it is in normal range, they have given 7.39, but you know that pH normal value is 7.35 to 7.45. Whether it is in normal range, of course it is in normal range, and I told you if it is in normal range, what will you answer? It is a full compensated. Okay, so if pH value is in normal range, you will answer it as full compensation. So 7.39 means it is in normal range, that's why it is an example of full compensation. Now you don't think about respiratory or metabolic, you will directly go to whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. Now you know this pH value is from 7.35 to 7.45, where the absolute normal value is 7.40 and your 7.39 is somewhere here, 7.39. which means it is less than 7.40, which means it is leading towards acidosis. So this pH value is 7.39, whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. As it is below 7.40, that means it is acidosis. Why? Because I told you earlier, if the pH value is less than 7.40, it will be acidosis. If it is more than 7.40, it will be basic or alkaline in nature. But here in question paper, they have given pH value is 7.39. Somewhere it is here. That means it is below 7.40. That means it is leading towards acidosis. So your ABG abnormalities is full compensated acidosis. Now this much you will retain in exam. Now you have to find out whether this full compensated acidosis is due to respiratory problem or due to metabolic problems. For that you need to check into this PCO2 value and bicarbonate value. Now again think it nicely. PCO2 value is given as 50. What I said, the normal values of PCO2 ranges from 35 to 45. Okay. Now, if the PCO2 value I said it is less than 35, means acidic nature decreasing, so it is alternatively getting alkaline in nature. But in question paper they have given the pH value is 50. pH value is 50 means more than 45, right? So that means acidic component is getting increases. That means it is leading towards acidosis. Okay. So here PCO2 value they have given as 50. That means it is more than 45. Means somewhere it is the PCO2 value is here 50. So it is leading towards acidosis, as because acidic component is getting increases, so it is getting acidosis in nature. So your full compensated acidosis is due to respiratory problem or metabolic problem. So you are easily understanding that PCO2 value is increasing, that's why your pH value leading towards acidosis. Now you have to think again about this bicarbonate value, because that can be also due to metabolic reason also. So PCO2 value, you are pretty much clear about this. PCO2 is increasing, that's why pH value is decreasing, means it is leading towards acidosis. Again I need to look into this bicarbonate values. Bicarbonate normal ranges is from 22 to 28. I told you earlier, if it is less than 22 means basic component is getting decreases. Alternatively, it is leading towards acidosis. But here your bicarbonate value is given 30. So it is due to metabolic in nature on which your pH is leading toward acidosis? No, absolutely not. Bicarbonate value is given 30. अगर bicarbonate value exam paper में 22 से below range में देता, then we can say it is due to metabolic acidosis. But here bicarbonate value is given 30, means bicarbonate value basic component is more than expected. So this ABG abnormality is not because of metabolic in nature, it is because of respiratory problem. That's why your PCO2 value is increases. As because PCO2 increases, that's why your pH value is decreasing and getting acidosis in nature. So PCO here this is an example of full compensated acidosis due to respiratory problem or metabolic problem. This is due to respiratory problem. So the answer is full compensated respiratory acidosis. Again I'm making you clear that pH value given as 7.39, PCO2 value 50, bicarbonate value 30. Now how will you understand what kind of ABG abnormalities is this? First you need to understand whether pH is in normal range or not. 7.39 means it is in normal range, so it is a case of full compensation. First you will write this one. Now this is an example of acidosis or alkalosis. As because 7.39 is below 7.40, that means it is leading towards acidosis. That's why I will write it as full compensated acidosis. This is your second step. Now you have to find out this full compensated acidosis is because of respiratory problem or because of metabolic problem. अगर आपका PCO2 value more than expected, more than 45, that means acidic component is increasing. As that is acidic component is increasing, इसके वजह से ही आपका pH वैल्यू एसिडोसिस के तरफ लीड कर रहा है. सो इट इज़ अ केस ऑफ रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस. क्यों मैं नहीं बोल रही हूँ कि ये एग्जाम्पल ऑफ मेटाबॉलिक एसिडोसिस? बिकॉज मेटाबॉलिक एसिडोसिस होने के लिए आपका बाइकार्बोनेट वैल्यू को डिक्रीज होना चाहिए. इफ द बाइकार्बोनेट वैल्यू इज लेस देन 22, basic component will get decreased, then it will lead towards acidosis. But here the bicarbonate value given as 30, that means it is more than 28. अब आप लोग बोलोगे कि मैम ये बाइकार्बोनेट वैल्यू इंक्रीज क्यों हो रहे हैं? ये बाइकार्बोनेट वैल्यू इंक्रीज इसलिए हो रहे हैं क्योंकि आपका एसिड कंपोनेंट इज इंक्रीजिंग. एसिड कंपोनेंट इंक्रीज हो रहा है, इसलिए आपका बॉडी कंपनसेट करेगा by increasing its basic value. So as acid is increasing, base will also increase its quantity to maintain the equilibrium. That's why your bicarbonate value is increased. But this full compensated acidosis is not because of this metabolic in nature. It is respiratory in nature, as because your PCO2 value is increased. I hope you people get to understand about this ABG abnormality. So it is a case of full compensated respiratory acidosis. This is the answer. Now again I will give the second example of full compensated respiratory alkalosis. Okay, you don't know which kind of ABG abnormalities is this. Examiner given you this question and they ask you about to find out the kind of ABG abnormalities. So what I said, first you will write it as answer like this. So your first step will be find out whether pH is in normal range or not. In exam they have given the pH value is 7.44 and you know the pH values ranges from 7.35 to 7.45. Whether it is in normal range? Yes, 7.44 is absolutely in normal range only. 7.40 is absolute normal value. 7.35 to 7.45 is the normal range and 7.44 is somewhere here and it is in normal range. That's why I will answer it as full compensated. Full compensated. Now this is your first step. Now what I said, the second step will be you have to find out whether it is an example of acidosis or alkalosis. So 7.44 means towards this side, that means basic, and if it is below 7.40 it will be acidic. As because your 7.44 is more than 7.40, that means it is basic in nature, alkaline in nature. So this is an example of full compensated alkalosis. Now I will find out whether this alkalosis is due to the respiratory problem or due to the metabolic problem. So for that I need to look into this PCO2 value and your bicarbonate value. So I got the answer full compensated alkalosis, respiratory or metabolic. So let's find out this answer. PCO2 value normal ranges is from 35 to 45. But in question paper they have given this PCO2 value less than 30. Less than 30 means if it is PCO2 value less than 35 means your acidic component is decreasing. If acidic component is decreasing, alternatively we can say it is getting basic in nature, means alkaline in nature. If it is more than 45, we can say acidic component is increasing and leading towards acidosis. But here in question paper what they have given this PCO2 value 30. PCO2 value 30 means it is less than 35, means acidic component is decreasing. as acidic component is decreasing, acidic component decrease मतलब basic component increase होना, and that will lead towards the alkalosis. So here PCO2 value is below than the expected value. That's why we can say okay, it can be a case of respiratory alkalosis. Again, I need to confirm whether it is respiratory alkalosis or metabolic alkalosis. So for that I need to look into this bicarbonate value. Again, bicarbonate value they have given as 20, and you know the normal range of bicarbonate value is 22 to 28. Okay, now bicarbonate value is from 22 to 28. If it is below 22 means basic component is decreasing, so acidic in nature मिल रहा है इसको. If it is more than 28 means basic component is getting increases leading towards alkalosis. But here in question paper they have given bicarbonate value is 20, means it is below 22, less than 22. As it is less than 22 तो होना चाहिए इसको एसिडिक नेचर की तरफ गेन करना, लीडिंग टूवर्ड्स एसिडोसिस. बट ये हो क्या रहा है, ये एसिडोसिस की तरफ लीड कर रहा है. बट मैंने तो पहले ही बोल दिया कि ये अल्कालोसिस है, आंसर विल बी अल्कालोसिस. सो यू डोंट थिंक अबाउट दिस बाइकार्बोनेट वैल्यू. अगर अल्कालोसिस इज ड्यू टू metabolic abnormalities, then your bicarbonate should be more than 28 होना चाहिए, जो कि इधर नहीं हो रहा है. सो मैं बाइकार्बोनेट या फिर मेटाबॉलिक के बारे में सोचूंगी ही नहीं. इट इज़ एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ एल्कालोसिस. सो एल्कालोसिस होने के लिए क्राइटेरिया क्या होना चाहिए कि आपका PCO2 वैल्यू को लेस देन 35 होना चाहिए, so that acidic component will get decreases and it will lead towards basic in nature or alkaline in nature. So ये criteria तो fulfill हो रहा है. और second criteria will be alkalosis होने के लिए bicarbonate value को more than 28 होना चाहिए, so that basic component will get increase and leading towards alkalosis. But question paper में तो bicarbonate value less than 22 दिया हुआ है, so ये criteria fulfill नहीं हो रहा है. That's why I will say this full compensated alkalosis is due to your respiratory problem. So I will retain it as the answer will be full compensated respiratory alkalosis. As because PCO2 value is less than 35, that means in our body acidic component is decreasing. As a result, it is leading towards alkalosis in nature. That's why I put this headline full compensated respiratory alkalosis. Now again, dear students, maybe you are facing some difficulties. One by one, when we will discuss further classification with their example, you will get to understand about this nature and how you will clarify the answer by looking into the pH value, PCO2 value and your bicarbonate value. Now coming to the third example, examiner has given you this question by giving this three value: pH 7.36, PCO2 30 and bicarbonate 20. Now you don't know the answer. How will you simplify this answer? By clearing step by step. Okay, now first what I said, you need to look into this pH value and you have to clarify whether it is full compensation, partial compensation or uncompensation. For being full compensation, pH value should be in normal range. Whether your pH value is normal range, you know pH value 7.35 to 7.45 is the normal range, and your pH here given as 7.36. So that means it is in normal range. So my first step completed. That means it is an example of full compensated or full compensation. Okay, your first step is completed. pH is in normal range. That means it is an example of full compensation. Now I need to understand whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. For that you need to make this line again and again, where your 7.40 or pH value is absolute normal, 7.35 to 7.45 is the normal range, and 7.36 means somewhere it is somewhere it is here 7.36, which means it is less than 7.40. That means it is acid leading towards acidosis. If it is more than 7.40, it will lead towards alkalosis. But here the pH value given as 7.36, so I will say it is an example of acidosis, not alkalosis, as because it is leading towards left side. That's why less than 7.40. So I will answer it as full compensated acidosis. Okay. Now your second step is clear. Now you need to look into this PCO2 value and bicarbonate value to get to know about whether it is in case of full compensated respiratory acidosis or full compensated metabolic acidosis. So acidosis के लिए मुझे PCO2 and bicarbonate value की तरफ देखना पड़ेगा. Now PCO2 value is given as 30, but you know PCO2 value's normal range is from 35 to 45. Okay, this is the normal range. So एसिडोसिस, रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस होने के लिए आपका PCO2 वैल्यू को 35 से अबव होना चाहिए, so that acidic component will get increase and it will lead towards acidosis. But here this is the case totally opposite in nature, means instead of increasing this PCO2 value, here it is below 35. Below 35 means it will lead towards basic in nature, as because acidic component is decreasing. Okay, PCO2 is acidic oxide. Acidic oxide means if it is more than 45, it will acidic in nature. If it is less than 35 means acidic component is decreasing, so it will gain towards basic in nature or it will lead towards alkalosis. So here it is an example of acidosis. So your PCO2 value should increase, but instead of increasing it is getting decreased. So it is not an example of respiratory problem. So I need to look into this bicarbonate value. Whether bicarbonate is in normal range? No, it is not in normal range, as because bicarbonate normal range is from 22 to 28. Now if your bicarbonate value is less than 22, bicarbonate is basic in nature, and if it is less than 22 means your basic component is decreasing. If basic component is decreasing means alternatively we can say it is leading towards acidosis. So ये criteria fulfill हो रहा है क्या? Yes, हो रहा है. If your bicarbonate value is less than 22 means basic component is decreasing, so it is leading towards acidosis. If the bicarbonate value more than 28 means basic component is increasing, and basic component increasing means it is leading towards alkalosis. But मुझे alkalosis के बारे में सोचना ही नहीं है, क्योंकि मैं ऑलरेडी मुझे आंसर मिल गया कि दिस इज एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ full compensated acidosis. So I need to think about which criteria should be fulfilled for being an case of full compensated acidosis. So here pH value, bicarbonate value should be less than 22, so that it will lead towards acidosis. Here you can get to understand that this acidosis is due to bicarbonate value, as it is below 22 means basic component is decreasing. As basic component is decreasing, that means it is leading towards acidosis. For और दूसरा क्राइटेरिया क्या है कि मुझे पीएच वैल्यू को 45 के अबव होना चाहिए ताकि ये एसिडोसिस नेचर इसको मिले. बट इन क्वेश्चन पेपर PCO2 वैल्यू इज गिवन 30, so it means it is less than 35, so it acidic component should get decreases. But here already मुझे आंसर मिल गया कि ये एसिडोसिस इन नेचर. That's why this is not an example of respiratory problem. This is due to metabolic in problem. So the answer will be full compensated metabolic acidosis. Third step also you have completed. So again, this is an example of full compensated metabolic acidosis. Why? Because full compensated, as it is pH value is in normal range. Acidosis as because it is leading towards left side, that means below 7.40. Now acidosis due to metabolic in nature or respiratory in nature. For being metabolic acidosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. पहला क्राइटेरिया होना चाहिए कि बाइकार्बोनेट वैल्यू को 22 से नीचे होना चाहिए, जो कि हियर इट इज फुलफिल्ड. सेकेंड क्राइटेरिया शुड बी मोर देन 45 होना चाहिए, बट हियर इट इज गिवन 30. सो ये क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल नहीं हो रहा है. सो हियर एज बिकॉज दिस बाइकार्बोनेट इज फुलफिलिंग this criteria, that's why it is metabolic in nature, not respiratory in nature. So this is an example of full compensated metabolic acidosis. Now coming to the last example of full compensation, where the examiner has given this data of pH 7.45, PCO2 50 and your bicarbonate is 30. So I need to find out the answer in step by step, whether it is an example of full compensation, partial compensation or uncompensation. For being full compensation, pH should be in normal range. Whether your pH value is in normal range, yes, it is in normal range. So I will answer it as full compensation. Now your first step is fulfilled. Now I need to find out whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. Now pH value is absolute normal value 7.40, 7.35 to 7.45 is normal range. pH value given in question paper 7.45, that means it is leading towards your right side, means it is more than 7.40. So that's why I will say it as alkalosis in nature, as because your pH value is more than 4.5. So your second step is also clear, also completed. This is an example of full compensation alkalosis. Now this alkalosis is due to your PCO2 value or due to your bicarbonate value. I need to find out. So for being alkalosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. What are those criteria? One criteria should be your bicarbonate value or basic value should be more than 28 or your PCO2 value less than 35. So we need to find out which criteria is fulfilled here. Here for being alkalosis, your bicarbonate value should be more than 28. Here whether it is fulfilled, in question paper they have given it is 30. So yes, it is fulfilled. Now I need to look into this PCO2 value. Whether PCO2 value is less than 35? No. Here in question it is given 50. That means it is more than 45. So this criteria is not fulfilled by this PCO2 value. So this alkalosis in nature is due to your bicarbonate value. That means it is metabolic in nature, as because PCO2 is due to respiratory problem, PCO2 alternation is due to respiratory problem, and your bicarbonate alternation is due to metabolic problem. So here for being this alkalosis is due to the pH value is more than 28, and because it is more than 28 means bicarbonate is 30. That's why this is an example of metabolic alkalosis. So metabolic alkalosis, whether it is full compensation, partial compensation or uncompensation, it is an example of full compensation metabolic alkalosis. So again and again I will clarify this question. The examiner has given these three data of pH 7.45, PCO2 50 and bicarbonate is 30. So I need to understand whether step by step whether it is in full compensation, partial compensation or uncompensation. So 7.45 means it is in normal range, so I will directly put it as full compensated classification. Now whether it is acidosis or alkalosis, as 7.45 is more than 7.40, that means it is leading towards basic in nature, that means it is alkalosis, leads towards alkalosis. So I will answer it as full compensated alkalosis. Now for being alkalosis, we need to fulfill two criteria. One criteria will be bicarbonate value should be more than 28, जो कि यहाँ फुलफिल हो रहा है, as because examiner has given the bicarbonate value as 30. 30 means it is more than 28. So this criteria is getting fulfilled. The second criteria should be PCO2 value less than 35. But the examiner has given this PCO2 value is 50. Whether this criteria is fulfilled? No. That's why I won't answer it as respiratory alkalosis. I will answer it as metabolic alkalosis, as because bicarbonate is fulfilling this criteria. If PCO2 value is fulfilling this criteria, I will answer it as respiratory alkalosis. But here PCO2 is not even bothering about this alkalosis and alternation and all. That's why I won't answer it as respiratory alkalosis. Now you will question me, then ma'am, why this PCO2 value is increasing? I told you earlier, our body always is in equilibrium state of acid and base. If base is increasing, that means 30, so your acid will try to compensate by increasing its value. As because bicarbonate is 30, that means normal, more than expected range, so basic component is increasing. To minimize this alternation, PCO2 value also increases from its normal range, that means more than 45 इसका नॉर्मल रेंज है, इससे भी ज़्यादा इंक्रीज हो गया, सो दैट इट विल मेंटेन एन इक्विलिब्रियम स्टेट. दैट्स वाई योर PCO2 वैल्यू इज ऑल्सो ऑल्टर्ड, बट इट इज़ एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ फुल कंपनसेशन मेटाबॉलिक एल्कलोसिस. सो from this 4 example, what you understand that one basic or exclusive criteria for being full compensated should be your pH value, which will be in normal range. So in exam, whatever value they have given in PCO2, whatever value they have given in bicarbonate, you need to look into this pH value. This pH value will be in normal range. What about this PCO2 and bicarbonate? Whether they will also be in normal range, we need to look into this 4 example. Whether your PCO2 value is in normal range? No. They are not in not between 35 to 45. Whether your bicarbonate is in normal range from 22 to 28? No, they are also not in normal range. Coming to the next example. Whether your pH is normal range? Yes. Whether your PCO2 is in normal range? You know normal range is 35 to 45. So here it is not in normal range. Whether bicarbonate is in normal range? You know normal range is 20 to 28, but it is also not in normal range. Now coming to the third example. pH value is in normal range? Yes, it is in normal range. PCO2 is in normal range? No, it is 30. So it is not in normal range. Bicarbonate is in normal range? No, it is also not in normal range. Now coming to the fourth example. pH value is in normal range? Yes, it is in normal range. PCO2 value, normal range is 35 to 45 E. But here it is given 50. So it is in normal range? No, it is not in normal range. Bicarbonate also not in normal range, as normal range is 22 to 28. But here it is given as 30. So it is in normal range? No, it is not in normal range. So what you understand from this full compensation? For being full compensation, pH value should be in normal range. Here all those 4 example, pH is in normal range. Normal range. Here also normal range. Here also normal range. This is one exclusive criteria. PCO2 will be in normal range. Let's check. 50, not in normal range. Here also 30, not in normal range. Here also 30, not in normal range. Here also 50, not in normal range. So for being full compensation, whether your PCO2 value will be in normal range? No, it is not in normal range. It will get altered, whether it will be increased or decreased. Now let's check this bicarbonate value. Bicarbonate value is in normal range in first example? No, it is not. In second case, also, here also it is not in normal range. In third case, here also it is not in normal range. In fourth case, here it is given as 30. So it is not also in normal range. So what you understand here, bicarbonate value also not in normal range, it is also altered. Now your question is, why those two value altered? these two value altered, they tried their best to bring this pH value in normal range. So in case of full compensation, your pH value will be normal range because PCO2 and bicarbonate tried their best to bring back this pH value in normal range. That's why I'm saying it is an example of full compensation. So whatever data examiner will give you, you need to check this pH value, PCO2 value, bicarbonate value. If pH value is in normal range and PCO2 and bicarbonate won't be in normal range, you will directly or blindly you can answer it as full compensation. Now you will again clarify your answer, or you will understand this partial compensation and uncompensation when I will discuss it further. As per now, you just remember the tick. For being full compensation, your pH will be in normal range, PCO2 and bicarbonate won't be in normal range. Okay, PCO2 वैल्यू 35 से 45 के बीच में नहीं रहेगा. It can be less than 35 or it can be more than 45. Same for bicarbonate also. It won't be between 22 to 28. ये 22 से नीचे रह सकते हैं या फिर 28 से ऊपर रह सकते हैं. बट pH always be in 35 to 7.35 to 7.45. So this is all about your full compensation. Now coming to the partial compensation. Again, partial compensation also further classified into partial compensated respiratory acidosis, partial compensated respiratory alkalosis, partial compensated metabolic acidosis, partial compensated metabolic alkalosis. So we will discuss it here again and again. So what pH value, what PCO2 value, what bicarbonate value examiner will give you, so that you will understand this is not a case of full compensation, but this is a case of partial compensation. So to differentiate between full compensation and partial compensation, how you will understand the exclusive characteristics between full compensation and partial compensation is that here in case of full compensation, pH will be in normal range, but in case of partial compensation, it won't be in normal range. Means 7.35 से 7.45 के बीच में नहीं रहेगा. But I already gave you 4 example of full compensation. In all cases, pH was in normal range. So the exclusive difference between full compensation and partial compensation is that in case of full compensation, pH will be in normal range, but in case of partial compensation, pH won't be in normal range. What about PCO2 and bicarbonate? As I told you earlier, in case of full compensation, pH will also altered. It won't be in normal range. Here also, this criteria will be fulfilled. What about this bicarbonate value? In case of full compensation, it won't be between the normal range. Here also in case of partial compensation, it won't be in normal range. Here also it will altered, here also it will altered. Now how you will understand between this full compensation or partial compensation? By simply looking into this pH value. If pH value is in normal range, if PCO2 value won't be in normal range, if bicarbonate value won't be in normal range, तीनों के तीनों वैल्यू ही नॉर्मल रेंज में नहीं रहेगा, then I will blindly answer it as partial compensation. If pH value is normal and PCO2 and bicarbonate won't be normal, then I will blindly answer it as full compensation. I hope you understand. Now you will question me, ma'am, why this pH value is not in normal range? Although PCO2 and bicarbonate altered their value, na? So why it is not a case of full compensation? Why? Because in case of full compensation, your PCO2 value and bicarbonate value tried their best to bring back this pH value in normal and they succeed. That's why it is a case of full compensation. But in partial compensation, let's think patient is suffering with some problem with respiratory problem or something metabolic problem, and your acid base component is altered. So your PCO2 and your bicarbonate will try to compensate or try to minimize this alternation. PCO2 and bicarbonate will try their best to bring back this pH value normal, but they failed. Here they won't get succeed. although they tried their best, but they won't get succeed. That's why it is a case of partial compensation. But here PCO2 and bicarbonate will try their best and they will succeed. That's why it is a case of full compensation. So how you will understand it is a case of full compensation or it is a case of partial compensation? By simply looking into the pH value. Both cases PCO2 and bicarbonate won't be in normal range, but pH value in case of full compensation it will be in normal range, but in case of partial compensation it won't be in normal range. That is the exclusive and basic difference between full compensation and partial compensation. Now I will give example one by one. Okay, now the pH value, let's think, we are discussing about this partial compensation. Partial compensation is where pH won't be in normal range, PCO2 won't be in normal range, bicarbonate won't be in normal range, and this is the trick or criteria for being partial compensation. Okay, so now I will give you example one by one. Okay, now let's think your pH value, no matter whatever example it is, examiner has given you the pH value. Let's think in case of pH value they have given us 7.28, PCO2 value they given us 50, and your bicarbonate value, let's think, they have given us 30. This you are appearing one exam, and that exam suddenly you got these questions and you feel like, oh my god, how will I answer these questions? So again and again, how simply you will answer this kind of question? By completing step by step. Okay, here you just put answer, and I know you all will get the answer. So for understanding whether it is an example of partial compensation or full compensation or uncompensation, what I said, you will remember the classes. Okay, ma'am taught us that if pH value won't be in normal range, if PCO2 value won't be in normal range, if bicarbonate value won't be in normal range, yeah, I can answer it as partial compensation. So here all three criteria is fulfilled. pH value normal range is 7.35 to 7.45. Here pH value is 7.28, that is not in normal range, so this criteria is fulfilled. PCO2's normal value 35 to 45, but here it is given 50. This criteria also fulfilled. Bicarbonate value 22 to 28 is normal range, but here given as 30. This criteria also fulfilled. So for being partial compensation, all three criteria are fulfilled. So I will blindly answer it as partial compensation. Are you guys clear? Partial compensated. So this is your first step, and you have successfully completed the first step, partially compensated. Now you will find out whether it is a case of acidosis or alkalosis. So for that again and again मुझे वही रेंज को ड्रॉ करना है. pH value 7.35 to 7.45 and the absolute normal value is 7.40. Here this pH value is less than 7.40, means it is towards this side. Towards this side means what I said, it is acidosis. If it is towards this side means right side, it will be basic. But here pH value given as 7.28 means it is below 7.40. That's why I will say it as acidosis. So your second step also you have successfully cleared that this is an example of acidosis. So partially compensated acidosis. Now you need to find out the third step, whether this acidosis is due to respiratory problem or it is due to metabolic problem. So for that you need to look into the PCO2 value and your bicarbonate value. So for being acidosis, two criteria should be fulfilled for being acidosis. What are those criteria? So for being acidosis, criteria should be PCO2 value more than 45 and bicarbonate value less than 22. Now we will check which one is fulfilling here. PCO2 value 45, PCO2. Here it is given 50. Oh yes, it is fulfilled, right? PCO2 value here it is given as 50. So this criteria is fulfilled. Now we need to check bicarbonate value whether it is in lesser than 22. No, here P bicarbonate value is given as 30. That means it is more than 28, not less than 22. So this criteria is not getting fulfilled by bicarbonate. As this bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria, so I won't say it is due to metabolic acidosis. Rather, I will say it is due to respiratory acidosis, as because your PCO2 value is fulfilling this criteria. So I will say this partially compensated acidosis is due to respiratory problem. So did I get my answer? Yes, I got this answer as partially compensated respiratory acidosis. I hope you guys clear. Again I will discuss. Now pH value examiner has given 7.28, PCO2 50, bicarbonate 30. So your first step will be you need to check whether this is an example of full compensation or partial compensation, because you don't know anything about uncompensation. So you don't think about this uncompensated part. As I told you, the basic difference between full compensation and partial compensation. For being full compensation, pH will be in normal range. Whether your pH is in normal range? No. So this is not an example of full compensation. Whether it is an example of partial compensation? So for being partial compensation, pH won't be in normal range. Yes, this criteria is fulfilled. PCO2 won't be in normal range. Yes, this criteria also fulfilled. Bicarbonate won't be in normal range. Yes, this criteria also fulfilled. So I will blindly answer it as partial compensation. Now, it is a case of acidosis or alkalosis. For being acidosis, pH value should be lesser than 7.40. Whether this criteria is fulfilled here? Yes, it is fulfilled here. That's why it is acidosis. Now the third criteria is whether it is respiratory problem or whether it is metabolic problem. So for being acidosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. One will be PCO2 more than 45, one will be bicarbonate less than 22. So here PCO2 value given as 50. That means it is more than 45. This criteria is fulfilled by PCO2. Now bicarbonate should be lesser than 22 for being acidosis, but here examiner given bicarbonate value 30. This criteria is fulfilled by bicarbonate value? No. That's why it is not a metabolic problem. Rather, it is a case of respiratory problem. Now you will question me, ma'am, why this bicarbonate value is increasing then? Because I told you, acid and base always maintaining a static equilibrium. As because PCO2 value is very high here, so base will try to compensate by increasing its value. That's why bicarbonate value also increase here. So as simple as that. Now coming to the second example. Second example is, let's think I am giving you an example of pH examiner has given as 7.49. Okay. Then your PCO2 value given as 30 and your bicarbonate value is given as 18. Now examiner asks you to find out which kind of ABG abnormalities is this. एंड डियर स्टूडेंट्स, आई नो आप लोगों को अच्छे से पता चल गया कि कैसे इजीली एंड सिंपल वे में आप फाइंड आउट कर सकते हैं आंसर को. सो स्टेप बाय स्टेप यू विल राइट इट द आंसर बिलो द क्वेश्चन पेपर. You have to find out the first step. What is the first step? You need to look into this pH value, PCO2 value and bicarbonate value. Whether pH is in normal range 7.35 to 7.45. No, it is not in normal range. Let's look into this PCO2 value. Whether it is in normal range. No, it is not in normal range. So, okay. And bicarbonate value 22 to 28. Whether it is in normal range? No, it's also not in normal range. So whether I'm fulfilling this partially compensated criteria, pH not in normal range, PCO2 not in normal range, bicarbonate not in normal range, yes, I am fulfilling here. So I will blindly answer it as partially compensated. So you have successfully fulfilled this first step. Now coming to the second step, whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. Now I need to again draw this pH, where 7.40 is absolute normal value, 7.35 to 7.45 is normal range, 7.49 means it is beyond 7.40, means beyond 7.40 means it is getting basic in nature, means alkalosis, leading towards alkalosis. So did I get my second step answer? Sorry. Yes, I got my second step answer, that is alkalosis. Did I complete my second step? Yes, I have completed. So my first step, I got the answer is it as partially compensated. I got my second step answer, that is alkalosis. Now I need to find out whether this alkalosis is due to metabolic problem or respiratory problem. So again I told you, for being alkalosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. One should be bicarbonate value more than 28 and PCO2 value less than 35. Then only it will become alkalosis. Now I need to look into this bicarbonate value as well as PCO2 value. PCO2, it is given as 30. That means this criteria is fulfilled by PCO2. Okay. So that means it can be respiratory alkalosis. Now I need to look into this bicarbonate value, and it should be more than 28 for being alkalosis. But examiner has given 18. Whether it is more than 28? No. So bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria. As bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria, so I will answer it as respiratory alkalosis. I will answer it as respiratory alkalosis, not metabolic, as because bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria. Did I complete my third step? Yes, I completed my third step. So like that, in this way you have to answer in exam also. Okay, why it is partially compensated respiratory alkalosis? As because all three values are not in normal range. Why it is alkalosis? As because 7.49 means it is leading towards this side. That's why it is alkalosis in nature. Alkalosis is due to metabolic problem or respiratory problem. As PCO2 is fulfilling this criteria, I will answer it as respiratory alkalosis. I won't be answer it as metabolic alkalosis, as because bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria for being alkalosis. Okay, as simple as that. Now coming to the third example, let's think again. You are appearing in exam, and here examiner has given you one questions of pH value, where the examiner given as pH value 7.3 to 7. Let's think they have given this pH value as 7.2. Okay, now coming to the PCO2 value. PCO2 value, let's think they have given as 30. Okay, and bicarbonate value, let's think they have given as 18. Okay, so how simply I will answer these questions. Again, you will write this below the question like this answer. So step by step I will find out the answer. In first step, what I said, you need to look into these three components, whether those are in normal range or not. pH normal range is 7.35 to 7.45. Whether it is in normal range? No. PCO2 value normal range is 35 to 45. Whether it is in normal range? No. Bicarbonate values normal range is 22 to 28. Whether it is in normal range? No, of course not. So all three criteria is fulfilled for being partial compensation. So here this criteria is getting fulfilled. So I will answer it as partially compensated. Okay. Now I successfully completed my first step. Now I will find out whether it is whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. So I will draw this line again, of pH 7.35 to 7.45, where 7.40 is absolute normal. Okay, and your pH given as 7.2, that means it is leading towards this side. 7.2 means it is below 7.40. So if it is leading towards this side, means it is getting acidic in nature. So I will answer it as acidosis. Acidosis. Did I complete my second step? Yes, I completed. Now, for being acidosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. What are those criteria? One criteria should be PCO2 value more than 45 and your bicarbonate value less than 22. So we need to look into this PCO2 value. Whether your PCO2 value more than 35, more than 45. Oh, sorry, it is not more than 45. So PCO2 is not fulfilling this criteria. Let's check this bicarbonate value. Whether it is below 22. Yes, 18 means it is below 22, right? So bicarbonate is fulfilling this criteria. As bicarbonate is fulfilling this criteria, so this is an example of metabolic alkalosis. Okay, metabolic alkalosis. Why it is not respiratory? Metabolic acidosis. Why it is not respiratory acidosis? As because PCO2 is not fulfilling this criteria. Now you will question me, ma'am, why PCO2 value then decreasing? Again, the same concept, acid, base and their equilibrium state. As base is decreased, so acid will try to decrease its component or quantity to minimize the alternation and to maintain the equilibrium state. As because bicarbonate decrease, that's why PCO2 also decrease to bring back this pH value in normal state. Although they failed, but still they tried their best. That's why this is an example of partially compensated metabolic acidosis. Like in this way, in exam also आपको ऐसे find out करना है. Coming to the last example of partially compensated metabolic alkalosis. Again, I will give you example. You are appearing in exam. An examiner given you pH value 7.47, PCO2 value 50, bicarbonate value 30. And you don't have any concept of how to find out the answer key. So you will just write below the question paper like answer like this. Okay, in first step you have to find out whether it is in a case of partial compensation or full compensation. For being full compensation, pH should be in normal range. Whether your pH is in normal range, you know pH value normal range is 7.35 to 7.45, but it is not in normal range, so it is not a case of full compensation. Whether it is partial compensation, for being partial compensation, I need to look into all three values. pH not in normal range, PCO2 value also not in normal range, bicarbonate value also not in normal range. So yes, it is an examples of partial compensation. Partially compensated. Okay, did you complete your first step to find out the answer? Yes, you have completed successfully. Now coming to the second step, whether it is a case of acidosis or alkalosis. Let's find out by drawing this line again. 7.35 to 7.45, where 7.40 is absolute normal value, 7.47 examiner has given, that means somewhere here your pH value 7.47, means it is leading towards your right side, means more than 7.40. that means it is basic in nature. As it is basic in nature, that means it is an example of alkalosis. Okay, now did you complete your second step? Yes, you have completed. Now for being alkalosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. What are those criteria? First criteria should be bicarbonate will be more than 28, PCO2 less than 35. Let's check those bicarbonate value and PCO2 value. So your bicarbonate should be more than 28. Here it is given 30. That means 30 is more than 28, right? So this criteria is fulfilled by bicarbonate. Let's check PCO2 value, whether it is less than 35 or no. examiner has given it is 50. 50 means it is more than 35. So it should be less than 35 for being alkalosis, na? So PCO2 value is not fulfilling this criteria. So what will I answer? This is an example of metabolic alkalosis or respiratory alkalosis. It is metabolic alkalosis, as because bicarbonate is fulfilling this criteria. Did you completed your third step? Yes, you have completed. So this is an example of partially compensated, as because partial compensation, as because all three values are not in normal range. Alkalosis because of pH value 7.47, that means it is more than 7.40. Alkalosis due to metabolic in nature, as because bicarbonate is fulfilling this criteria by getting the value of 30, which is more than 28. So all are examples of partially compensated ABG abnormalities. So what concept you get here? For being partial compensation, pH won't be in normal range. Here, see, here also it is not in normal range. Here also it is not in normal range. Here also in third example it is not in normal range. Here also it is not in normal range. Okay. PCO2 also won't be in normal range. Bicarbonate also won't be in normal range. In first cases, those are not in normal range. Second cases, those are not in normal range. Third cases also, those are not in normal range. And in fourth case also, those are not in normal range. So what easy concept you understand here between full compensation and partial compensation? So if in question paper, 3 value given pH, bicarbonate and your PCO2, and pH is normal, PCO2 and bicarbonate is not in normal range, you will simply or blindly answer it as full compensation. If in case of pH value not in normal range, PCO2 also not in normal range, bicarbonate also not in normal range, you will blindly answer it as partial compensation. So easily you understand the concept of full compensation and partial compensation. Now coming to the last part of today's session, where I will be discussing the uncompensated respiratory acidosis, uncompensated respiratory alkalosis, uncompensated metabolic acidosis, uncompensated metabolic alkalosis. So again I will draw this line. Okay. In first compartment it will be full compensation. In second compartment it is partial compensation. And third compartment it is uncompensation. Okay. So in previous 2 stages we have discussed this full compensation and partial compensation. For being full compensation, pH will be normal, PCO2 won't be normal, bicarbonate also won't be in normal range. In partial compensation, the exclusive feature will be pH also not in normal, PCO2 also not in normal, bicarbonate also not in normal range. Now, how will you understand this is a case of uncompensated ABG abnormalities? So for that, I will give you example one by one. In first case, I will discuss about uncompensated respiratory acidosis. Okay. Now let's think. You are appearing one exam. Their examiner has given you the pH value as 7.2, PCO2 given as 50, and bicarbonate given as 24. Okay. So how will you simply answer of these questions? In step by step. Write answer, find out the first step. Okay. So here pH value, what they have given, 7.2, that is not in normal range. But PCO2, it is also not in normal range. But wait, bicarbonate, here it is normal range. But in previous 2 discussion, did you get anywhere that PCO2 and bicarbonate is in normal range, but here you are getting, that means in uncompensation one value will be in normal range. That can be bicarbonate, that can be PCO2. We will discuss this pH later. Okay, now I will say it also won't be in normal range. But what about this PCO2 and bicarbonate in case of uncompensation? One of this value will be in normal range. If PCO2 will be in normal range, then bicarbonate won't be in normal range. If PCO2 won't be in normal range, in that case bicarbonate will be in normal range. You will understand easily. Wait, pH examiner has given 7.2, PCO2 50 and bicarbonate given as 24. Okay, so how will you understand this is an example of uncompensation? You need to look into this three value. If you get one of the value between PCO2 and bicarbonate is in normal range, you will simply answer it as uncompensation. I will discuss why it is uncompensation, but here you got this bicarbonate is in normal range, right? So it is an example of uncompensation. I will answer you why it is uncompensation. First you clarify it step by step. Now your second step, what I said, you have to find out whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. So just draw this line of 7.35 to 7.45, where 7.40 is absolute normal range and pH given as 7.2. That means this is leading towards your left side, means below 7.40. So it is acidosis. Now for being acidosis, did you complete your second step? Yes, you have completed. So for being acidosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. One will be PCO2 more than 45 and third criteria bicarbonate will be less than 22. Let's check which criteria is fulfilled here. Here your PCO2 given 50. 50 means it is more than 45. That means PCO2 is fulfilling this criteria. Let's check bicarbonate. Bicarbonate should be less than 22. But here it is 24. That means it's normal. It not even change, not even increase or decrease. It's maintain its normal range. So bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria. So I will answer it as this acidosis is due to respiratory in nature. Due to respiratory problem. Did you fulfill your third criteria? Yes, you fulfill. Now you will ask me, ma'am, how you understand this is a case of uncompensation? Now, as because PCO2 value is getting increased, but I told you acid and base always maintain their static state. If acid is increasing, base will also increase. If acid is decreasing, base will also decrease. But just look here whether your PCO2 value already increases, that means 50. So base should increase, right? And it increase from its normal range. So it should be increased more than 28. But here look into it. Here it is given as 24. It not even bothered to change its normal value. ये अपने आप को हीरो समझ रहे हैं और ये बोल रहे हैं चाहे जो भी हो जाए, एसिडिक कंपोनेंट इंक्रीज हो जाए, डिक्रीज हो जाए, मुझे अपना वैल्यू चेंज नहीं करना है. That's why, as because it is not even putting its effort to maintain this equilibrium, we will tell this is an example of uncompensation, where no one is compensating to minimize this alternation. As because PCO2 value is higher than its normal range, bicarbonate should also increases to maintain this equilibrium, but here it is in normal range and it is not even change, or it is not even moving towards this basidic side. That's why it is a case of uncompensation, as because one value is in normal range. So how will you understand? By looking into the value of pH, PCO2 and bicarbonate, whether it is a case of uncompensated ABG abnormalities, one will be in normal range. Here in this case, bicarbonate is in normal range. Okay, that's why I'm saying it is a case of uncompensation. Now coming to the Second example I will discuss about uncompensated respiratory alkalosis. Okay, let's think. You are appearing one exam and examiner given you the pH value as 7.49, PCO2 value given as 30, and let's think bicarbonate value given as let's think PCO2 value PCO2 value given as, what I will say, bicarbonate given as 20, 30, bicarbonate given as 30, and your sorry guys, PCO2 here given as 30. Okay, 30, and your bicarbonate value given as, let's think it is again 26. Okay, examiner has given you this data. Now you have to find out what kind of ABG abnormalities is this. As you know the basic concept to how to simplify or how to understand step by step to find out the answer, you will just find out your first step, whether it is full compensation, partial compensation or uncompensation. Again, you need to look into whether one of the value of PCO2 or bicarbonate is in normal range. I need to check. See, PCO2 value normal range is 35 to 45. Whether it is in normal range? No, it is not in normal range. Whether bicarbonate is in normal range? Yes, it is in normal range. So one is in normal range means it is an example of uncompensation, uncompensated. As because you learn earlier, in case of full compensation and partial compensation, PCO2 and bicarbonate कोई भी वैल्यू नॉर्मल रेंज में नहीं रहेगा, बट इन केस ऑफ अनकम्पनसेशन one of the value will be in normal range. If PCO2 is in normal range, bicarbonate won't be in normal range. If bicarbonate is in normal range, PCO2 won't be in normal range. But here in this case bicarbonate is in normal range, so I will answer it as uncompensation, not full compensation or partial compensation. Okay, now I need to find out the second step, whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. For getting this answer, we need to draw this line of pH 7.35 to 7.45, where 7.40 is absolute normal value and 7.49 means it is leading towards this side and getting basic or alkaline in nature, as because 7.49 is more than 7.40. So it is alkalosis, example of alkalosis. Now, did you complete your second step? Yes. For being alkalosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. What are those criteria? One will be PCO2 value less than 35. Okay, and bicarbonate value will be more than 28. Now let's look into those values. PCO2 value should be less than 35. Whether PCO2 value is less than 35? Yes, it is 30. 30 means it is less than 35. That means this criteria is fulfilled by PCO2. Let's check this bicarbonate. Whether bicarbonate is more than 28? No, bicarbonate is in normal range. It is not even increase or decrease. So bicarbonate is not fulfilling this criteria. So what will I answer? This alkalosis is due to respiratory in nature. Respiratory alkalosis. Okay. Did you complete your third step? Yes, you have completed your third step successfully. So for being uncompensation, one value will be in normal range. Here this bicarbonate is in normal range. Why it is alkalosis? As because pH value is leading towards this side. That's why it is alkalosis in nature. For being alkalosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. One will be PCO2 less than 35, where it is fulfilled as because examiner is given PCO2 value 30, which is less than 35, and bicarbonate should be more than 28, but here bicarbonate not even less than 22, not even more than 28. That means it is in normal range. As it is in normal range and not fulfilling this criteria, so it is not metabolic in nature. and one value, that means bicarbonate, not even changing its value for maintaining this equilibrium. That's why it is an example of uncompensated respiratory alkalosis. I hope you guys are clear. Now coming to the third example, uncompensated metabolic acidosis. Okay, now again the same discussion. You are appearing one exam where examiner has given you the data of pH 7.30, PCO2 given as, let's think, 30, bicarbonate is given as 18. Okay, now you don't know anything about it. How will you answer this question? By step you will write it as answer. Now you need to check whether it is partial compensation, full compensation or uncompensation. pH value is not in normal range, so it is not an example of full compensation. Now you need to think about, it can be partial compensation or it can be uncompensation. For being partial compensation, not a single value will be in normal range, but here bicarbonate, sorry, I gave you wrong data. Here your for being this uncompensated metabolic acidosis, your pH value will be okay 7.30. It's okay. PCO2 value, let's think, it is given as 37, and your bicarbonate, let's think, it is given as 18. Okay, 18. Okay. Now for being this partial differentiate between partially compensation and uncompensation, how will you understand? In case of partial compensation, not a single value will be in normal range, but here you see PCO2 value is in normal range, right? So this is not in case of partial compensation. One value is in normal range and another value is abnormal. That is a case of uncompensated. Did you complete your first step? Yes, you have completed. Now find out the second step, whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. So again I will draw this line of 7.35 to 7.45, where 7.40 is absolute normal number and 7.30 means it is leading towards this side. That means it is below 7.40, as because pH is 7.30. So it is acidosis. Okay. Now, did you complete your second step? Yes. For being acidosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. One will be PCO2 value more than 45 and bicarbonate value less than 22. If basic will get decreased, that means it leading towards acidosis. Is acidic component is increasing, that means it is leading towards acidosis. So those are the two criteria for being acidosis. Now I will look into those PCO2 value, whether PCO2 value more than 45, but here it is in normal range, so it's not fulfilling this criteria. Now we need to look into this bicarbonate value, whether it is below 22. Yes, here it is given as 18, which is below 22. That means it is fulfilling the criteria. So what is the example of this ABG's abnormalities? This is an example of metabolic acidosis, as because bicarbonate is fulfilling this criteria, not PCO2. That's why it is not respiratory acidosis. It is metabolic acidosis. Why it is uncompensated? As because bicarbonate is decreasing, so it's the responsibility of acidic component to decrease its value so that it will maintain an equilibrium. But PCO2 is in normal range. It is not even altered its value. That's why it is an example of uncompensated metabolic acidosis. Now the last example of today's discussion is uncompensated metabolic alkalosis. Again I will give you the pH value as 7.50, PCO2 value as 7.40, and your bicarbonate value as, let's think, 29. Okay, PCO2 value given as 40. Let's think. It is an example of metabolic acidosis, so it will be due to metabolic in nature, so it will be normal range. Let's think it is given as 44, and your metabolic, let's think it is given as 30. Okay, now I will simplify this problem by writing is as answer. I will find the case of whether it is partial compensation, full compensation or uncompensation. So for this, for being full compensation, pH will be in normal range, but here it is not in normal range, so I won't think about it is a case of full compensation. Now I need to understand whether it is partial compensation or full uncompensation. For being partial compensation, all value will be abnormal, but here PCO2 value is in normal range 35 to 45, so it is not a case of partial compensation, rather it is a case of uncompensation. So one step I have completed. Okay, now I will find out whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. I will draw this line of 7.40 absolute normal value, 7.35 to 7.45 normal range, but here pH not in normal range and it is leading towards basic in nature. That means 7.50 means more than 7.40, which is alkalosis. So my second step also, alkalosis, I have completed. Now for being alkalosis, two criteria should be fulfilled. One will be bicarbonate value more than 28 and PCO2 value less than 35. Now look into those bicarbonate values, whether it is more than 28, yes, it is given as 30. So this criteria is fulfilled by bicarbonate. Let's check the PCO2 value, whether it is less than 35, but here it is normal range and moreover it is more than 35. So this is not fulfilled by PCO2. So this alkalosis is due to respiratory problem or metabolic problem. As because bicarbonate value is fulfilling this criteria, so I will say it is an example of metabolic alkalosis. I hope you guys understand the step-by-step process. How will you find out the answer in question paper? Whatever example they will give, you will easily understand, and you already know the trick. How to understand whether it is in case of uncompensation, whether it is in full compensation, whether it is in partial compensation. What I said, in case of full compensation, pH will be normal. Only simply looking into the pH value, if it is in normal range, you no need to think about it is in case of partial compensation or uncompensation. You will blindly answer it is as full compensation. If in exam these three values all will be in abnormal range, you will simply answer it as partial compensation. And if in exam pH value is not in normal range, but whether PCO2 or bicarbonate, one of the value is normal range and another is in abnormal range, you will simply answer it as uncompensated ABG abnormalities. And whether it is metabolic alkalosis, whether it is metabolic acidosis, whether it is respiratory alkalosis, whether it is respiratory acidosis, you can easily understand by fulfilling this second step and third step. Okay, so hope you guys understand this basic ABG abnormalities, their normal ranges, their subdivision, whether it is full compensation, partial compensation or all compensation, whether it is metabolic alkalosis, metabolic acidosis, respiratory alkalosis. Okay, in the last sessions of this ABG abnormalities, I will discuss the question paper, and one by one you will understand. Dear students, I know it is little bit difficult for you to understand easily by simply watching this video for one time. So whoever still having confusion, first I am recommending you to watch this part 1, then move to part 2, and in part 3 I will be discussing this questions answer. Whatever questions answer I will be taken from NCLEX book, PR Yadav and your other book. Okay, and from there all possible question answer session I will be discussed, and from there you will get some ideas. So thank you. Bye.